I wanted to become more productive and work on my anxiety. And I did this by working on my dopamine in 3 phases. As someone with an anxiety disorder and struggled with myself for years now, I finally got to see how the dopamine system was the main goal for me to be more focused and finally work towards the goals I have set. I got interested in the dopamine system after seeing some videos of David Humberman, and especially after the last 3-4 years where I continuously triggered my dopamine way too much in clubbing and by drugs. And how I generally just got anxious whenever I set goals for myself and already got scared from the minute after setting my goals. I knew that this was something I should really put my focus on. Dopamine works basically as follow. It is the system that rewards you whenever you trigger it, and this can be done by achieving something that you have strived for, but this can also be realized by a bunch of less important things, such as social media, your phone, porn, coffee, or other substances. But I mention these 4 in particular because I think we can all relate to those. So the first phase was basically for me when I left Berlin and when I was in the Netherlands. I set 3 phases to give myself time to work on this. The first phase was to calm down and try to apply the things that I have learned about it and to train myself and give myself time to adjust to it. This is basically the realization phase. As I was already busy with being a sober puppy for a bit, that was the first thing. Make an analysis of what other things I put in my body or other things that could trigger my dopamine. Such as coffee, sugar, certain types of foods, or things that I would do to calm myself down when I was struggling with my anxiety. I gave myself 2 months for this because it's to push out routines out of your life. Works the best when you do those things gradually and take them step by step. With the substances such as coffee and sugar, it was quite easy as I worked them back. So let's take, for example, coffee. I went from 4 or 5 cups a day towards first 2-3 cups and then to 1, and now I only give myself a cup of coffee when I go to work. The other part was my social media phone use. So whenever I had a shitty day with my anxiety, I would often just turn to my phone and be either on Instagram or YouTube, and I would just watch some stupid stuff and it would calm myself down. But I wasn't really aware that it was actually just feeding into my dopamine system, and this didn't make it really better. My approach here was a bit more cold turkey, as I would just try to sleep at those moments, or I would go for a 20-kilometer bike ride, for example. The more I did the bike riding, the better. I started to feel a lot better, so I realized once more how important sports is for me. The second phase basically started when I moved to Malta, as I knew that a new environment means a new opportunity to rework my routine from scratch. And yes, the first week I was staying in an hotel and I had a bunch of other things to arrange. But also there, I gave myself some time to adjust to the new location and my new life. And the first 2 weeks were all about getting my foundation in order and take rest whenever I needed. I also had to work next to this, so it was a bit chaotic because I also still had to get a new place. But overall, it was already really helpful that I learned a lot in the first phase basically, and that I got my foundation in where I could fall back on if I either got anxious or that my dopamine was triggered way too much. After a week, I already got my place, which I was really lucky with. So mid-November, I started to go to the gym and started to work on my routine. I have a changing schedule for work, but overall, I always make breakfast, and gladly the gym opens at 5 a.m. in the morning during the week. So I always go to the gym before I have to start work. Some days I start at 7 in the morning at work, but then I still wake up at 4 in the morning and I make sure that I am at the gym at 5. Sometimes people will call me crazy for doing this, which I can understand, or they just tell me like, I could never do so because I need my sleep and etc. But let me explain to you how I do this. First of all, I used to wake up Sundays anyways at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, so to go to Berghain. Secondly, by getting my dopamine under control, I am much more empowered and responsible for my own sleeping schedule. Yes, if I have a week that I, for example, go to bed at 12, the first day is always a bit shitty because I know I will still wake up at 4 a.m. And then the next day, once I get home from work, for example, I will most likely already fall asleep at 7 in the evening. Really early, yes, I know, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Normally, on the days that I go to the gym and I go to the gym, wake up at 4, I already get myself to bed at 8, 9 p.m. I have another whole daily routine that I'm still gonna make a video about, and I'm gonna take you along in that. Especially how much I noticed the effect of dopamine has on my sleeping rhythm. This has ultimately been a blessing. I know that if I'm gonna scroll 20 minutes before I need to go to sleep, I'm gonna scroll on Instagram or whatever, see some stories and whatever, I'm gonna trigger my dopamine. Or, for example, if I would watch porn, and that is also just a big dopamine trigger. I know that I'm not gonna sleep straight away after that. And yes, November was harder than after 2 months of doing this. Nothing comes just from one day of trying, of course. It might take several months to rework your dopamine or any other things that you are working for. With dopamine, I really noticed that, especially once you start to rework that, the moments, for example, that you would normally go on your phone or that you would do certain things that trigger your dopamine and you wouldn't do those things, for me, it always worked into my anxiety. And the first 30 days were really the hardest with this. Then the third phase, which sort of started in December already, because I saw the benefits of it, but I am focused on it really since January. And that is, I have certain end goals that I have for myself, but I made tinier goals as well. And I sort of made a reward system in my head for myself in what I'm gonna do once I achieve those things. By creating smaller goals as well, it's way easier actually to work for myself. Even with YouTube now, I post way more than I did before. Normally I would always really work on my YouTube for 2 weeks, and then you guys wouldn't hear from me for 2-3 months, something like that. But I always got just anxious, especially of the end goal. What if I could make this work in terms of the other things that I do as well? That always made me anxious. I would just get stuck with myself, and then I wouldn't work on those goals. And now I really noticed, combined together with reworking my dopamine system, it really helped me out a great deal. Of course, and that's why I also sort of call the third phase something that's just ongoing, because I will try out new things. I will meet new people. Maybe I will have a different schedule. Maybe at one point I can just work for myself and etc. So at those moments I still have to figure out how I'm gonna do this for myself. But overall, I noticed my anxiety got way better. I am way much more in control of my own sleeping schedule. Also, I don't feel as anxious on a daily basis. So all in all together, this has just been an eye-opening thing. Dopamine can be really nice, and you can get it from anywhere basically. But for me, I really noticed that I shouldn't be triggering it the whole day. By being a master of sleep now, I would not have imagined me just going to bed at 8 p.m. in the evening. Maybe a bit boring for people and etc. But I have a goal for my body as well. I want to get as fit as possible again. But overall, the 3 phases. The first phase, very simple. That's just really realizing what you are doing to yourself and what kind of influence dopamine has to you. The second phase is really building your foundation, as this is pretty much important so that you have something to fall back on. And the third phase, that's an ongoing phase, and you will never really quit that, or at least that's how I look at it. Seeing the power that it gives me, I will definitely continue focusing on this. And the first 30 phase and the second phase are the hardest. Yeah, by now I am really triggered by it in a good way, that I am aware of what it does, how I can focus on it to get work done. And overall I've been productive and I'm overall feeling pretty good. So yeah, that's definitely some good points there. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Maybe this is also something that you're interested in. There are a bunch of other videos also from David Humberman. He has his own podcast. You will most likely, if you just put Humberman and Dopamine into YouTube, you will find a lot of stuff. It's really helpful. He focuses on other interesting things as well. You can use my thing in how I'm doing it. I'm just freewheeling it, and this is the thing in how I felt most comfortable with it. But yeah, this is just something that I wanted to share. I've talked about it in the past few videos already a few times. So here it is. How I control my dopamine, my little guide for it. Hope you liked the video, and then there is nothing else to say than big hug, much love, and then I see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.